Hi, Mark. Yes, I am Monica Sattler. I'm originally from Germany, living now in Switzerland. I'm a keynote speaker and endurance athlete. I think that sums it up. And I do a lot of different things, as you know, Mark.
I was going to say, that introduction does not really sum you up at all.
Welcome to the Refuel and Reboot Podcast, where each episode is either about cycling or technology and business, and on the rare occasion combines the two. I'm Mark Gilmore, host of this episode. And this episode is one of those rare occasions where we do bring the world of cycling and endurance challenges into the business and corporate world, where I speak to Monica Sattler, author, endurance athlete, TEDx and international speaker, who over the last decade has used the lessons that she has learned in endurance challenges to bring practical advice, coaching and teaching in the corporate world. She and I first met on the start line of the Hot Route Alps in 2017, and in the interview you will hear about some of the challenges that we've been involved in together. You'll also hear about her latest challenge this summer, which listeners can get involved in, and also a little bit more about the framework which she has developed to coach executive and project teams in achieving great results when the way or the route gets steep. So here is Monica.
So I come from the cycling world, have, as you touched on it, working for the World Bank, for the International Monetary Fund, worked in management consulting in the US, in Spain, in Australia, and then I ended up in Switzerland. But when we met, I think I still lived in Spain at that point, and
I think so, yeah.
I was just traveling Europe and going from one cycling event to the next.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Mhm.
Well, and speaking of cycling events, we got talking. I remember we met in Barcelona maybe a few months later, and you said, "Oh, Mark, I've got this crazy idea," which was to,
Yeah.
well, you tell us, what was that crazy idea
Yeah.
that you did?
Yes, at that point, exactly. I lived in Spain already, and I don't know how I came about it, but all of a sudden I had the idea of riding La Vuelta a España, the Tour of Spain, one of the three hardest cycling races in the world, with the Giro d'Italia and France, at the same day as the male professionals, just hours beforehand. All the
Yep.
stages, same day, just, a few hours before.
Yeah,
And
all 21 stages. And I remember I sat in
yeah.
that cafe in Barcelona, and I went, "Oh, that sounds fun." So,
And then how many minutes later did you decide, hey, you actually could join?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I joined you for that last week. There was no way I was
Mm.
managing all 3 weeks. But I mean, what a fantastic achievement that was. But it kind of, that and the events you'd been doing the year before and traveling around. And then, I mean, you've started challenges then pretty much ever since. You've been doing some sort of different challenge. Um, Not just to do with cycling, though, all sorts of different challenges. But that kind of led also into kind of corporate speaking and motivational speaking things. And you did a couple of things for me when I was working at Sienna and Colt, some team building stuff. But since then, how's that grown, and what have you been involved in since?
Yeah. So I think the Vuelta was basically a starting point of realizing that I love cycling, and I had a stint at professional cycling, but what I really enjoy is putting an idea together and creating a project. So not just cycling, but really of how to build up a team, how to get a logistics organization, partners on board, media, filmmaking. So there's so many different stakeholders on board, and I really enjoy creating that kind of project, and evolved into another cycling project, riding La Vuelta, the 124 Swiss Passes Challenge in 26 days. Then I did, and then went to the High Rocks World Championships. Well, that's not so much of a project of my own, but I enjoyed that. And now I have this year another project which is similar, of walking or running this time, 30 summits, Swiss summits in 30 days with 40,000 meters of elevation gain. And what I realized doing those challenges is quite similar to the business world. because in the business world, the same. And I just also, the experience I had is you're building up a project, you have a big goal, and then how to make it happen. And you're going through those phases where maybe motivation fades, energy drops. All of a sudden, you're not anymore sure which way actually to go. And the same thing you have in the sports world, in the challenges. And I transfer those, challenges, sports challenge, into the business world, the lessons learned into the business world. And that's how the keynote speaking came out, starting very small in a Rafa store in Mallorca, and now, having a chance to be on the international stages.
Well, not just in within the corporate world, but correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't you also a TED speaker? You did a pitch at TEDx, didn't you, a few years ago?
Correct. Yes, in the United States, I spoke there. Yeah,
and
a while ago.
And so these focus points, I can absolutely see that where the idea of not just the actual event, the challenge itself, but actually everything that goes into preparing that and making that happen in the first place, how there's quite considerable transferable skills or transferable points that can be made in terms of, particularly in projects, particularly in complex projects or complex situations that are not running smoothly.
Absolutely. I would say any ambitious project or goal, no matter if it's in sports or in business, you have those demanding phases, let's say this. And some teams just run into them and then are surprised that they happen, and some teams are prepared for it. And that's what I'm helping businesses to do, to prepare for exactly those phases, because they will occur, they will happen. It's more a matter if you're prepared, if you're ready for it. And I created my own framework, the 5 principles how to prepare for those phases. And those 5 principles I've seen in my own corporate jobs, but also now in the sports world. And then I created this framework, and that's what I transferred. Support, especially leaders and teams, to get through those, prepare for those phases.
All right. And would it be is it appropriate for you just to share the kind of the highlights of what that framework looks like?
Sure. I call it the climb framework. So very much into, but for me, all my challenges go uphill. So climb. It's an acronym. The C stands for clarity. You have to know first where you're actually heading. And in the challenges, which path are you going up to from the summits? Which summit are you going up to? L stands for loyalty to the decision, meaning being committed to go for it and taking responsibility for it. I think especially nowadays, a very tough one. I stands for infrastructure, meaning creating systems and routines so that you don't rely on motivation, especially when you're having a bad day, that you still do it, you still go for it. If the routines are similar, like brushing your teeth, then perfectly, you're basically ready to go, especially through the demanding phase. M stands for milestones, meaning making progress visible. Just imagine heading up, Alpe d'Huez, heading up one of the big climbs. If you're only looking at the end of it, you do not see your progress. So how can you create small little steps, small little mini goals that you see that progress? It's exactly important for especially demanding phases where motivation is maybe low. And last but not least, the B for balance, meaning creating sustainable performance. As a sprinter would not sprint every single day. So why should a top business athlete, how I would call it, go hard every single day? It's important to put in recovery. Recovery means creating sustainable performance. It's not meaning being unproductive. And that altogether helps, especially those are the pillars for those demand phases and preparing for those.
So this becomes really particularly applicable then to projects that are, or to teams that are looking at they may already be in a difficult phase of that project, or maybe having, some challenges within that, or they can see that there's challenges coming ahead in that. So I could see that there's benefit to what you're saying here with the climb kind of framework in both those scenarios, both ones where you're already in problems, or two where you foresee that there's going to be challenging times ahead.
And I wouldn't just call it challenging times ahead, but maybe it's a very important year ahead. So you want to just be ready for it, right? And be ready for whatever comes in that year. Exactly. And especially in these times.
Yes, yeah. So it enables, I suppose, peak performance. That's kind of the transference from the sporting world to the business and the corporate world.
Exactly. And Mark, I think you can probably have more stories about it too. It's usually it's basis on this framework basis on the idea that results are created on I call it the steep part. Then when it becomes hard, then that is the decisive factor if you keep going or not, if you are successful or not. And when the sun's shining all nice, everyone can ride outside. Then when it's trenching down, when it's raining, still going outside, that is where you distinguish yourself basically as a top performer, when you really want to create this result and go for the goal. And that prepares for exactly those times.
Oh, how yeah, I can very much relate to that experience. There's been many a time where I've been on a steep climb or on a certain part of an ultra parkour, and I've gone, yeah, why am I doing this? And how am I going to make it to the top? Or oftentimes you just then have to focus in on that very moment. That and it's purely a case of just, in my case, because it's mainly cycling related, just turn those pedals, one bit at a time. Or even in the ultra world, where there's parts of the route that are actually designated as hiker bike, you just get off the bike and push, but continue that forward momentum, always moving forward.
Exactly. And you just basically answered with the questions also that what the climb framework is stating. You've had the clarity why you're already in this ultra marathon. You're not answering the question your hardest in the hardest moment. You know it already beforehand. And by being in that race, you're committing already fully to that race. You probably know already what kind of challenges you can expect. And having everything that already beforehand will get you, you're prepared in a different mindset. You're with a different mindset going through those challenges. And sometimes that means then just going to the mode, just keep pedaling.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So I'm sure listeners would like to hear a little bit about some of these challenges that you've done in the past, and what you've learned from them, and what you're hoping to gain from this 30 passes in 30 days in Switzerland this year. So just share with us a couple of anecdotes, a couple of things that you've learned from these incredible challenges that you've done over the years.
Yeah, every challenge is tried to be, they're non-comparable. So there must be unique challenges. And I'm seeking those challenges because I want to do them, right? And where I know I can learn and grow from them. And La Vuelta, you were there, Mark. It was a steep learning curve, I must say, because it was the first time that I'd done something like that. And there were parts, of course, where I felt like overwhelmed, but also overwhelmed by also all the reactions, the positive reactions. There was a kid in the middle of the road wanting an autograph. People were waiting for hours to join us for parts of the route. When we entered Andorra, with 30 plus people waiting, come with us. So there were so many moments, and that also showed to me when you're creating such a project, there's so many amazing surprises, and you learn so much from them. From the 124 Swiss Passes Challenge, all of a sudden I had a 13-person team. So it added up a completely different type of complexity of leading a team. A film team top of that too. We had a lot of stakeholder alignment to do, let's say this, because the film team had not always the same goals as we. But I learned a lot about that in regards to also then how to lead in this high pressure environment when you have to perform basically 27 for 26 days. You're together with a team for 26 days. How can you keep the momentum going? How can you keep the team dynamic together so everyone wants to be on this project? That's what I learned about this one for sure. And then the next one is again, for me, something completely new. I've written for 15 years. I knew how my body will feel at day 5, at day 10, and last day. With now running, I have no idea. So I don't know how I will feel at day 5. I don't know how I feel at day 20. And that makes it for me, again, of course, nervous, but also exciting. And also what I'm adding here is the entire community aspect. So a lot of people will join me, hopefully, but I received a lot of interest in being part of this project, and that makes it, again, like a new edition of surprises what will come.
Remind me, when does your 30-day challenge, Swiss Climbs Challenge start then? Yeah, it's in the summer, isn't it?
Exactly. It starts, so I must say, it's 30 Swiss summits, all walkable. So it's not like that you have to with some sort of climbing tools, a rope or nothing, just walkable, runnable. 30 days. So it starts on the July 20th and it runs to August 20th. And it's all around Switzerland, every day, one climb and only uphill. So, and then afterwards I take the mountain rail way down.
And then what a blessing that is in Switzerland. Although some would say you're foregoing the enjoyable part, the descent. Certainly, if that was on a bicycle, that would be the thing. You've done all the hard work to get up there, but there is a reason for that. There is a methodology in that, isn't it? It's
Probably that, Mark, but I don't enjoy downhill.
Yeah.
No matter how. I don't enjoy the cycling down, the running down. If I can skip that, I do it. So in fact, actually for that, also for practical reasons, for, knees and muscle, it's very damaging going downhill. And I have way more enjoyment, and I know I'm the minority, but I enjoyed way more going uphill. And of course, transferred with what I mentioned in regards to the climb framework, in regards to also transferring to the business world, it's usually an uphill battle. And how do I feel like, and how do you get through those demanding phases when you actually have 30 climbs and just going up?
Yeah, and then it's often true that in those circumstances you're climbing up to a goal. The goal is the top in that. The goal is not coming back down. So there's no coasting
Exactly.
in those sort of experiences. So that'll be I'm excited for you. Another different challenge in your repertoire I think it will transfer really well into the keynote speaking and the things that I've seen you do. I've experienced, but also that you're expanding upon and going forward. So yeah, all the best in that. Good.
Thank you. I think also like hiking / running, walking, everyone has something to do with it, even if it's just going for a walk. But everyone, I think, can imagine what it means to going uphill. And, especially when keynote speaking, bringing pictures up of a huge, long climb, you understand what it means, right? And then the transfer also to the business world is so direct. And people understand I'm in this difficult phase right now, going through, with a project I don't see where's the end. And I'm right now maybe not motivated. Energy is going, clarity, I'm not sure again where it goes. That transfer is it helps people also to see what it means for their own project.
Yeah, absolutely the case. So how would somebody go about getting hold of you then to either come and walk a day with you, or watch you run up the hill on the 30-day challenge, the 30-day Swiss Pass challenge, or indeed engage with you for perhaps somebody has got a project, a team that would benefit from your experience and your insights? How would somebody go about getting hold of you and finding out more?
So on my website, monicasattler.com. But as you just said it, I maybe want to mention too that I also offer corporate days where a full corporate team can join for one of those days. Not only the 30 Swiss summits, but also the challenge, but also before or afterwards. So because I think especially the team cohesion, bringing people together while you're sweating, having one obvious goal going up that climb, but also I lead that team through this climb concept while walking up, and that creates a totally different experience again, defining the goal and pursuing it. And
it certainly would, and make it, well, that becomes very, very, very memorable, very sticky, because you're sharing a common experience there and working towards a common goal, and in some respects suffering together as well, which creates that bond within a team for sure. That's a very interesting concept. That's a very good way of doing it. So people would reach out via your website, or I can put contact details in the show notes for this.
Definitely. And for those who just want to follow the challenge, especially can follow on LinkedIn or especially on Instagram for the pictures. Yeah, that's also possible.
Fantastic. Well, we will put all of your relevant details then into the show notes so that people can follow along on those. Monica, this is brilliant. Thank you very much for taking the time to share. Good luck with the challenge in the summer, and also with your continued speaking engagements. All the very, very best on those. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mark.